You can't see a huge amount of gold and silver piling up off the exchanges that are claiming ownership. So let's put all of this together, okay? So what does it all imply when you put it all together? And let's talk about the Great Reset. How do you make a Great Reset happen? First, you raise asset prices to record highs when interest rates are at their lowest point in history. And then you give the world a reason to look for a backdoor because you saw what just happened to the Russians, who 85% of the world says, well, you're still okay to trade with them because they don't like how the West has handled things. So all of them are coming together in this country, the Belt Road, which has 147 countries. All of these countries in the BRICS group, who make up 90% of the world's population, are all of this. And remember the fallacy of composition. One by one, these countries can't stand up to the US. They will rule the US if you bring them all together. So how does it all go off? Why do you have gold and silver? Why? Keep in mind that gold was the only tier 1 asset in the world, along with US dollars. The central banks, commercial banks, sovereign wealth funds, and family offices are all buying it. So keep that in mind. They're all pulling it off the exchanges, which gets rid of counterparty risk. You can see the drop from all of the big exchanges. How does all of this get out of hand? Easy. Saudi Arabia is now a member of the BRICS, and Saudi Arabia says, thanks, US. It's been a wild voyage. We are thankful for it. You know that China and Russia are protecting us right now. We really signed a military cooperation pact the day you left Afghanistan. You know what? We are going to let people buy energy in different currencies, such as the yuan, the rupee, the ruble, maybe the euro, gold, and dollars. This is good for us and for all of OPEC, who is on the Belt Road. That's it. It's over. What happens? Since 1974, every government on earth that has had to own dollars has gotten rid of them. This is because everyone will start getting rid of dollars. That's the first pillar when the dollar falls. The value of the dollar drops. What happens when those monies fall apart and come to the US? Hyperinflation. What are the bad effects of hyperinflation? Interest rates go up a lot. To make up for the loss of buying power, you need to raise interest rates. When everyone gets rid of their dollars in Saudi Arabia and OPEC say, thanks for the memories, folks, the dollar drops and interest rates go up. At the same time, equities, bonds, and real estate all fall. Stocks, bonds, dollars, and real estate are the 4 main ways to build wealth in this country. When interest rates go up and the dollar is dumped around the world, all of these will fail. And here is your big reset. This is how weak the system really is. And this is why you have metals that are worth anything. We are not trying to get rich because I think a change is about to happen. I'd like to add one last thing to it now. 75% of people throughout the world know about the Belt Road and this new digital yuan. So, what is a yuan in digital form? I see it as a beta test. A man named Sergei Glaziev wrote an article not too long ago. He is also the Russian minister in charge of the Eurasian Economic Union's integration in macroeconomics. He came out and put down the basic rules for the new US economy, which will be based on something other than the dollar. He continues by saying, and I quote, that it won't be based on any one currency like the Bretton Woods arrangement. Instead, it will be based on a market basket of local currencies that are more closely linked to a range of actual goods, including gold, other precious metals, grain, hydrocarbons, sugar, and so on. So, what do you think of the digital yuan from China? What better way to use distributed ledger technology to demonstrate the world that everything that all of these countries have stated is true? Why doesn't the EU work? In theory, because nothing is tied to it. And each country is going in a different route. But what if all of these countries came together, not just because they don't like the West, but also because they're fixing their relationships with each other? For example, Iraq and Iran are building a railway between Iran and Saudi Arabia. They're fixing things between countries that have disliked one another for a long time. But you know the saying, my enemy's enemy is my friend. They are all coming together around a fundamental idea, but that's not enough. We need to peg anything. Which countries own all of the goods? All the goods are owned by the BRICS and all the countries that are joining the BRICS. What better way to demonstrate off distributed ledger technology than to show how all the goods pledged to the new BRICS currency are pegged? They just stated that it will be released. What makes gold tier 1? Did they know this was going to happen? You tell me. The dollar's death is unavoidable and the math behind it. Will it be the main part of a new world reserve currency? What better method to prove that this pegging is real and can't be changed than on a distributed ledger like the Chinese digital one? I think this will be the foundation for a new system, the BRICS currency system. And when that happens, God help us all in this country. The gold tier 1 reclassification is a big deal. Just to say something about that for a second. People in my field always assumed that if anything ever became as important as money, it would be something like special drawing rights from the IMF. It might make a little more sense now why the central banks are buying and holding gold, because it is a risk-free high-level tier 1 asset. So anyways, the dollar was backed by gold as far as governments were concerned. We assure that you can trade your dollars or even just the dollars you own for any of the gold we have for you. You can trade them in for gold at a set rate of $35. During the last years of the Vietnam War, President de Gaulle of France understood that we were giving out more dollars and treasuries to pay for the war than we had gold to back them up. So he deployed battleships packed with dollars to New York Harbor and said to President Nixon, "We want our gold back for these dollars." And we delivered it to him. And he took a lot of the gold that the US Treasury had and bled it. And Nixon said, "Okay, that's it," August 1971. Windows shut for a short while, but they never opened again. But we broke our promise to the globe. And at that point, there was nothing backing the currency. So I questioned the people out there, and it's remarkable how few people know the answer to this question: what has made the dollar the world's reserve currency ever since? And you get a lot of different answers, usually about our military, our economy being the biggest and strongest, or something else. And I think you could say that some of it is accurate. But what created the dollar, the world's reserve currency, was that Henry Kissinger went to Saudi Arabia 3 years later. He also made a pledge to the Saudis. He asked, "What about this? We will support you. Let's just call it a deal for the two armies to work together. We will support you too. We'll provide you weapons and help. No one will ever tamper with the monarchy of Saudi Arabia. But for that, OPEC will set the price of oil around the world in dollars." They said, "Okay, that's fine." Since 1974, every country in the world has required to have dollars in order to buy oil. And it has made the dollar the world reserve currency by creating a fake demand for it dubbed the fuel dollar. You need dollars to run your country. It is the kingdom of Saudi Arabia's protection. And by default, the partnership with OPEC that has made the dollar the world's reserve currency since 1974, when the link to gold was broken 3 years earlier. At that point, the dollar was only paper money with no real value. And we all know what happened in the past. The dollar has lost more than 90% of its worth since then.